also, or if the state did not also include this event, then it would be a stage of redemption followed by extermination. Evidence.
So today is Pei Dalet, I think. Yeah.
As a stage of redemption.
Yeah. Today's Pei Dalet. Then yesterday the Gemara ended off with a question for husband when a person says people, a woman says, I'm answering myself, or people, there's a husband included, or she doesn't call her husband part of people, it's something else, it's her husband. So the reason why the Gemara spoke about that is because the Mishnah says that if she answered herself to benefit from people, does that include the husband or not? And the issue of the Mishnah also says that she could benefit from lakat shikol peya, because the Pasha says because it's not taken from anybody, because people have to leave it out, and anyone can take it, all the poor people can take it, so you're not benefiting from somebody, it's hefker. The question is, could she take from the husband? So the Gemara had a machlokas on the Mishnah. We had Ula, Rav, and Rav Nachman yesterday, and Ula and Rav Nachman, the first and the third, they said that a husband is not included. It also has to do with the lashon ha'yada. When people speak and they say people, do you include also your wife or husband, or that's a different category? So Rav Nachman and Ula, both of them said that you don't include the husband, and which would mean that when she answered herself to benefit from all people, she did not include her husband, and her husband could support her. And Rabbi said that when she says brio, she says I'm answering myself on all people, she does include the husband.
Now, one of the funniest things is that when you get directions and the person says 2 lights and you make a right, and you're standing by a light, you include that light or 2 more lights. You never know.
Whatever, that kind of question. So here's a question, like how do people speak? Over there, so the question will be here, is the woman allowed to benefit from her husband? The Gemara goes into the subject, if she's allowed to benefit from her husband, so that that's how she has support, and that's why it's not considered inu nefesh. She's not in a state of affliction because she has food from her husband. If she doesn't have food from her husband, so then the Mishnah will say the reason why she's not considered inu nefesh is because she can get stuck. The fact that she can get like a shikol peya, that's the reason why she's not considered afflicted, because she has a source of parnasa. And the other two pshat that said that she has her husband also, either in the case where he can't give her, it's telling her 2 reasons that she's not considered afflicted, or as the Rav Nachman says, if she gets divorced eventually, or if he dies, so then she is going to be afflicted. The answer is no, she could take lakat shikol peya. Everybody says that the fact that she could take lakat shikol peya is the reason why she's not called afflicted, by being usher to everybody else. The question is the husband included or not? That was yesterday's Gemara, and now, good morning, now we're up to the top of Pei Dalid.
How do we answer the fact that even one person we had an opinion, strong opinion?
We said it's machlokas Rabbi Yossi and Rabbanan. They're very extreme machlokas according to Rabbi Yossi, even being usher to the whole world besides her husband, or lakat shikol peya is enough that it should not be considered affliction. And Rabbanan say even being usher to one person is also called affliction. That's machlokas Rabbi Yossi and Rabbanan. So on the top line of Pei Dalid, and we're gonna try to find a proof if when a person says people, does it include the husband or not? So top line, Eisfei Rav Nachman. Ubal Lav Bichlal B'Yosu. Rav Nachman was of the opinion that when a woman says people, brios, creation, people, so it does not include the husband. He has a right from a Mishnah that it is included, the husband is included. That's a question of Lashon B'nei Adam again. But Tanan, Netula Nimin HaYehudim, Yafer Chalko, Tem Mishamashtu, Utein Netula Min HaYehudim. This is the last Mishnah of the Masechta, which we had quoted already before.
Last Mishnah.
And the Masechta, yeah, we had it quoted earlier. Peyalef is later on Sadi Yamad Beis, and she said that she's usher to have benefit to have relations with any of the Jews. She's usher to have relations meaning marital relations with any Jew. So the same question: people, Jew, creations, does it include husband or not? Right now she's married, and she says I'm usher to have relations with any Jew. So the Mishnah says that it includes him and also other people, and it's not considered inu nefesh. For a woman not to have marital relations is not considered affliction. It's only considered dvam shebeino leveino, and therefore the husband has the right to. Of course, it affects him if she's going to have relations, but he nullifies his chiluk, and therefore she's Temish Amashtu, she's allowed to have relations with him because he was made for that. But if she eventually gets married to somebody else, so then she is also to have relations with that other person because the husband wasn't able to nullify it. If it would be considered inu nefesh, then he could nullify it absolutely. But since it's only considered the vamshu enough, so it's not considered inu nefesh. and it says Vam Sheben Olaveina, so he only has the ability to nullify his portion, and she is going to be usher to everybody else. That's the Mishnah. What do you see?
The
That
Utehe is part of the Mishnah or no?
that's part of the Mishnah.
Or as while they're married, then.
The whole thing is the
he can
Mishnah.
make
This
her,
is the
then he
Mishnah. The
can make
Mishnah. The Mishnah reads, just to get the whole thing here.
Fair Chelko.
Yafer Chelko, Utehei, Netulam and Yehudim. If she said, Netulam and Yehudim, I'm separated from all Jews, means I can't have relations with any Jew. The law is that he should nullify his portion because it's Rom Shabbat Beno, he has the right to do that, and therefore Temesh Amashdim, she's a lot of relations with him, but Netulam and Yehudim, she's going to be asked to all other Jews if eventually she marries somebody else. That's the mission. Now, they want to question before there's only as Rabbi Yossi. Maybe they run hold that's called Dina Nefesh, and he's able to nullify it permanently. But anyway, what does the Gemara want from this? When she said, "I must say to all Jews," Jews is like saying people. I must say to all Jews, it does include the husband because it says Yafer Chelka. If she didn't include the husband, then he wouldn't have to be made for Chelka. So I put over here 3 dots to fill in the blank space and took out these words. There's a question in the gears over here. We'll block out this whole gears. We'll take it out with a red over here. This part we take out and put in a couple of more words. So why does he have to be made for Chelko? If she didn't include him in the first place, she does say a mustard to all Jews, and it doesn't mean the husband. So that's it. She made a net about other people. It has nothing to do with him, and she doesn't even have to be made for it. It's not even no. She made a net about other people. So he should just be mutter without being made for the Mishas Mashma. That's when she says Jew, she does include the husband. So here it says Emelach, which doesn't make sense, and some take out the word Emelach, and some say that just take out just leave it Aleph Lamed. There was abbreviations which should be Amalei. Because it says here that Esvei Rav of Nachman on top line. Rav Ash of Nachman. So Nachman's answering Amalei Shani Yacha Demucha Milsa Dalatera Kasra Nafsha. Yeah, it's different. Usually when a woman says people, Jews, she does not mean her husband. But here she's talking about relations. Right now she's only mutter to the husband. She's a married woman and she says I'm asking relations on all Jews. So what's she talking about relations for? Because she definitely is talking about the husband. She's talking about other people also. But she's not going to just talk about other people and not the husband. She's only married to the husband. She's not mutter to anybody right now. So from the words, from the actual words that she said, it's muchach. It's obvious that she also was talking about the ones that she's mutter to. She's answering that which is mutter. Right now, she's mutter to have relations with her husband, and she's answering him, and she's also answering everybody else also. And that's why she has to be mutter. That's why it's going to take effect. But he has to be made for chelko because you can't say over here that she only means other people and not the husband. Right now, she's also to everybody. So here it's an exception. Everybody will agree that when she says Jews, she meant her husband also being included as a Jew. But otherwise, when she says people, Jews, she does not mean her husband.
The moment she says I myself to all Jews, she does so to all Jews. It's a bottle. It's a what's called a shav. It's a shvur shav because she's not allowed any other Jews. It's like she's saying that.
That's what whenever it's going to be relevant. When it'll be relevant when she gets.
No, but the fact that in the state she's in, she can't have any relationship with any.
No, so she's making it's not shav. It's not for nothing because she's talking about when she's not going to be married to her husband either because he'll divorce her or because he'll die. So she has to bring herself to have relations with any Jew. That takes effect. It takes effect. It even says that it does take effect. It's not like it's.
I was thinking that it's batal mikara.
So it's not because
at that moment she's making the.
So you don't look at it just right now. If it ever has any relevance, so it's taking effect, and it does take effect. And she's also told Jews when her husband dies, and even when he's made for chelko, he doesn't have the ability to be made for that. So she's not going to be also told Jews. Maybe she can
only the chelk that is in his own inuim. He can
his own devam should be no levena that he's allowed to. So what happened? The Gesugi just talked about language issue. I think when people say people, Jews, creations, do they mean to say their spouse or not? Machlokis, maybe depends on the time and place, how people speak. But he was a machlokis amorom hadalam shat in the Mishnayos, and even the one who said that when a person says Jews, he does not mean the spouse, but if it's mucha from the subject, even if he does not mean, even if usually it does not mean, But in this case, it does mean because she obviously was talking about relations to the one that she was mutter to, at least, and therefore she meant him also. So well, at least as an issue, as a machlokes. So the Mishnah had said, a woman said, "I'm mastering myself to benefit from all creations." Did she also mean her husband? Did she mutter to benefit from her husband? That was a machlokes.
And if she meant relations, then in terms of benefiting from other people, it could be other things.
The Mishnah by us probably just means about food. That's the issue of our Mishnah, probably how she's going to get support from. If you want to say it means that all kinds of benefits, then you're right. Then
No, I'm saying if she meant when she said benefit,
yeah,
she only meant tashmish.
she didn't only mean tashmish. No, she didn't only mean that. The Mishnah later on says "Intula mina menayihuda," that meant tashmish. But this Mishnah, Konam Shani Nandala Brios, the top line over here,
Yeah.
that meant all kinds of benefits. Surely food. That's what the more goes into. Is how's she going to get food from? So she surely could get from Lekat Shikhopeya. That's the Mishnah. And that's the reason why it's not considered in the nefesh, because she has a source of sustenance. And the question is, could she also get from the husband? And that was a machlokes, what she meant, what she might have meant. Even if she's not allowed to benefit from the husband, she could benefit from like a shikhopeya. It could be she could benefit from the husband also. And those are all reasons why it's not considered in the nefesh, because she has a source of livelihood. That was the end of that sugya.
I'm a little surprised that a woman ushers herself from stashmish is not in your enough shad. It sounds very strange. A whole life without any physical relationship,
It has to do more with it's only a need. It's not a physical need. The women don't have physical needs maybe as much as she needs the husband. She needs a husband. It's not called an emotion. It's not called. She doesn't get the benefit from the actual physical. It could be it's more, and they say that by the women at least. Maybe men is different, but women, their whole enjoyment is only that husband loves her. It's not the actual physical act. And the zonos are because they're doing it for money. They're not doing it for they're on the contrary. They're playing on the men's type, but they don't have the type. They just want the money for it. Okay.
These last words, the al answer
That she meant to answer that which is mutter at the time. So she did mean her husband. She might have meant other people also eventually, but she's not going to just talk about other people, not her own husband. So here, even if usually when a woman says people, Jews, she does not include her husband. Here, when she was answering tashmish, she surely did mean her husband. The Mishnah said that as far as getting sustenance, she can get it from Lekat Shikhopeya. And we said the reason is because it's hefker. When a person leaves Lekat Shikhopeya, the gleanings, whatever was forgotten, peya that leave at the edge of the field. So it's hefker. And he doesn't have the right to say, I'm giving it to you, I'm giving it to you. People come, all the poor people come and they take it. So it's not considered she's benefiting from the owner of the field. That was the Mishnah. And therefore it's not considered in nefesh. She has a source of sustenance. The Mishnah leaves out Maisurani. Usually it goes together. Lekat Shikhopeya Maisurani. It doesn't say in the Mishnah Maisurani. How come? Is she allowed to take Maisurani from people? She asked herself to benefit from people. Can she collect Maisurani?
Not everybody's poor.
She's poor. She doesn't have a source of sustenance. She asked herself, and she's asked to benefit from everybody. She is eligible for tzedakah. She is eligible for tzedakah. Is she allowed to take Maisurani? So the Mishnah that by leaving it out, it's a thundering silence. It says Lekat Shikhopeya, doesn't say Maisurani. So that would imply that the reason why she cannot take Maisurani is because Maisurani, the owner, does have the right to choose who he wants to give it to. So even though the actual food he has to give away, the kilo of grain, but who's he going to give it to? So it's his choice. The fact that he gives it to this woman is going to be a no. So she's not Lekat Shikhopeya, that doesn't have any choice. The onion come on their own, and it's hefker, so they're not benefiting from the owner of the field. But Maisurani, she would be benefiting because he chose to give it to her, so she wouldn't be allowed to take Maisurani. But Tanya B'Braisa over Maisurani, the Braisa says differently. The Braisa says that she's allowed to take Maisurani also. So some machlokes is going on. Our Mishnah says it seems that's Moshe Kasha. Our Mishnah says
he added the word to the
right. It says and our Mishnah doesn't say that. So how are you going to reconcile the difference between the Mishnah and the Braisa? The Mishnah is mashma that she's not allowed to take Maisurani because it's considered benefiting, and the Braisa says openly that she is allowed to take Maisurani and it's not benefiting. Amar Rav Yosef, low kasha, not difficult. One of the Gemara will find a machlokus about something that's going to explain that machlokus. There's going to be a machlokus according to this, but it's not. It makes sense. It's going to be a machlokus based on a different issue. The Tanan, Belaz Omer, Ein Adam Sarchik Shem Al Maisurani Shel Demai. The Chachamim Omrim Amud Beis. Probably shame. Gain self lafish. So
What is it?
a little introduction. Yes, please.
Rabbi Eliezer Omer.
Right. Well, this was the first one. Achamim are the second one. Maybe Yaakov want to say something? Oh,
I just want to understand what the words meant. You said it so fast, it's hard for me to understand.
which one? I didn't translate anything. And the beginning is
You don't need to call on the.
right. Yeah, I didn't say anything. I didn't even translate. I didn't say anything.
Good.
Yeah, I just said the words.
Glad
I
I
didn't
didn't
say. I didn't say. So here, just to get what we're looking for is that there's going to be a machlokes. If I'm just going to go to the end and then go backwards again. We're going to find the machlokes if the owner of the field who's separating Maiserani, who has Maiserani, is it his choice to give who he wants to? Or it's like Leket Shekompeya, that the honey comes and takes it. Means in our Mishnah, the Mishnah Bryce that we're talking about, we want to know if it's considered benefiting from the owner of the field. So we said Leket Shekompeya is not benefiting because the honey just comes and takes it. And it's not any, the Baal Bais has nothing to do with it. He has to be mafkirit, and now it's Efkir. And it's not his choice who to give it to. But by Meiser money, we assume that it is his choice who to give it to, so you are benefiting.
It's the 10% after you gave the truma, right?
Right over there, we have to give now your Meiser money, right?
10%.
Twice a year, twice in 7.
But let's leave out the details. If it's going to be,
But he gives it.
so what does giving it mean?
Well, that's different than leaving over.
Right, so what does mean giving it? He has a choice who to give it to.
I would think so.
That's what we said. That the Dik of the Mishnah that says doesn't say Meiser money is probably because since he has a choice who to give it to, if he's going to give it to, if the owner is going to give it to her, to this woman, she's benefiting from him. He could have given it to somebody else. So that's considered that she benefited from him. And the Brisa seems to say that she could take Meiser money. So the simple way out will be if we'll go find an opinion that says that Meiser money is not his choice who to give it to, the Aniyim have a right to come and take away a tenth from him. Then it would make sense. It'd be like a shikon, the same thing.
It was almost like he's not in the picture.
He's obligated to give a tenth for Meiser money, and they come and take it, and there's nothing to do with him giving. He doesn't have a right to give it who he wants to give it to. If he wants,
Don't get into the logistics, but he had to go ahead and reap this product
yeah,
and take off 10%.
maybe they could take it off him.
Oh, they're not clear how it actually.
Like I'm not sure if we have to go there.
And put it in a basket somewhere, and then they come and take it from the basket instead of him giving it.
Plastic bags.
Just give me 1 second. Can you open Yamin? כן, שלום, אני באמצע שיעור, אבל אם זה שלא יהיה היום? בסדר, שלום, כל טוב.
Well, when it came to, just in terms of Meiser Rishon, we said the Levi can't just come and say, okay, I'm going to take it.
Okay, maybe that's a finish. Maybe it's a finish that Meiser, it's the owner's decision who to give it to. Truma, it's the owner's decision who to give it to. Now, Meiserani, is it the owner's decision who to give it to? Or the Aniyim are eligible, allowed to take the same way they take Leket Shikopeh. They come into the field. Of course, maybe during the right time, the only has to say it's a field is available for Aniyim to come at this time. Like the Gemara says in the Mishnah, says Shalosh Habayos B'yom, they had certain times that they would allow the Aniyim to come, and they would come and take the gleanings. They didn't ask the Baal Bais. Do you allow me to come in and take gleanings, or you want to give it to somebody else? No, it's not his
But
business.
that's out there in the field. Here we're talking about, he brought something in, he took off Truma, he took off 10% left for the Levi, and now he's got 10% more that he has
So
to take.
without getting into the Cheretz issue and everything, but there's a point that could be that there's no din of him to give
I'm
it.
just saying, it's not that they come, you make it sound like they come to the field and they say, I'll take this, it'll be.
No, not from the field. They're coming from the silo. They're going to get from the
From the
ready.
silo.
After it's already been winnowed
The
and
first
already
Meiser,
dug, it's already
this is the
dug,
second.
and then there's Meiserani, and then maybe then he can come and take it. If that will be true, then we'd have shot in the Brisa. The Brisa holds that he doesn't have the right to give it to who he wants to. They take it on their own. Of course, I'll take it on their own, Okay, so we'll figure out how to take it on their own. But it's not his decision who to give it to. If that will be true, if it finds Hashem on the Yama, so we'll be happy with the Brisa. That's what the Brisa holds, and therefore she's not called benefiting from them, from the owner, because it isn't the owner's choice who to give it to. So we're gonna try to get there. Now, it doesn't say openly that there's such a machlokus, but we're going to try to deduce it from this machlokus coming in.
Okay.
The Gemara, let's go a little bit more backwards. The Gemara talks about the issue is going to come up is when before you take off truma, you have tevel,
Mhm.
and you didn't take off truma samaisvus yet. So you're not allowed to eat all the tevel until you take it. Once you take off, if you took off truma and you didn't take off ma'aser rishon, it's still tevel.
Mhm.
If you took off ma'aser rishon and you didn't take off ma'aser sheni, it's still tevel. And there's going to be an issue if you didn't take off ma'aser ani yet. Is it still tevel or not? Maybe even though you have to give ma'aser ani, but maybe it's not tevel. The Gemara is going to find the machlokas about that. If that's true, the Gemara is happy. The Gemara is happy. The Gemara sees in that machlokas that if you hold that it's tevel, that means that it's my responsibility to separate it. That's why it's tevel. Why is it tevel? Because I'm supposed to separate it. Until I separate it, like a shikropeya, even before, you don't have to do anything, and it's not tevel. If the ani didn't come and take like a shikropeya, the gleanings are all there on the floor, or a shikra, that there's a forgotten sheaves that were not taken. You don't have to do anything, and it's not tevel. Nothing else is tevel. If the produce is not going to be tevel, even though you didn't take off ma'aser ani, it seems that we look at it that the aniyim are allowed to come and take it. It's not your business. You have to let them take it, but it has nothing to do with you. So the whole produce is not tevel, even before it's taken. Again, like a shikropeya doesn't make, even if before it was given or taken, it doesn't make everything tevel. Doesn't ask everything else. They're allowed to take it. Truma, ma'aser rishon, and ma'aser sheni. It is tevel until you separate it, because you're supposed to give it. So if you're supposed to give it and you didn't separate it, so it's tevel. It could be that ma'aser ani is going to be a machlokes if before you separate it, if the whole mixture is tevel or not. And we're going to try to explain that if you hold that it's tevel, that means you're supposed to give it. You're supposed to separate it and give it. It's a din on you. And if you hold that it's not tevel, the explanation is going to be because it's not you who's supposed to give it. They're allowed to take it. If they're allowed to take it, that has nothing to do with me being my things being tevel. If so, if we're going to find such a machlok, because we found a solution to explain the Bryce and the Mishnah, that the Mishnah knows, like we said, that the ma'aser ani is your obligation to give, and you have a choice who to give it to. And the Bryce that says that ma'aser ani is mutter for her to take is because this Bryce is going to hold that it does not make tevel. Means even before you separate it, it's not tevel, which is another way of saying that it's the ani's right to take it, but it's not your obligation to give it. And therefore, it's not your choice who to give it to. If we will find that machlokes, we'll be happy. That's how the Gemara is done, right?
Can you remind me the difference between tevel and the mai?
The mai means that you bought it from an amor. It's an ignorant person that he says that he did everything. He tied. It's all kosher.
Tithed.
He says it's tied, and we don't trust him.
Tevel is untithed.
Tevel is definitely
The
untithed.
mai is questionably tithed.
Right. So we're going to go into a Mishnah now and try to glean from this Mishnah that there's such a machlokes if the mixture before you take off ma'aser ani is a tevel or not. And if we find that, the Gemara thinks that seems to I think maybe that is the machlokes if you have the choice to give it to a certain person or not. If it's not tevel, that means that it's the aniyim's right to take it, and it's nothing to do with you, and you can't say who to give it to. If it makes tevel before you take it, it's because it's your obligation to separate it, and then you can give it who you want to. That's what the more goes
For all
for.
the years, when we speak about tevel, we always talk about not bringing mice and king. That's always.
What do we always talk about?
All the years I've been learning,
Tevel means what?
everything that is tevel. I didn't even think about Maisani or Maisasheni as part of tevel. I only thought about Maisus and Truma.
No.
What?
That
Trumas and Meisers.
the word meiser, we say too much of meisers, but the word meiser includes not only meiser rishon, it's also meiser sheni and also meiser oni.
Maisus Rishon. I always had an impression we're talking about Maisus Rishon.
And how about meiser
I
sheni?
don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
That's right.
And how about meiser oni? That's the issue now.
Yeah.
And we're going to come
No,
out that
I
we're going to
get
come
the
out that meiser oni also. So
Yeah,
till you
no,
take off
I
meiser
get
oni,
the
it's
problem.
tevel. I think that's the halacha that we're going to pass in that it's tevel even till you take off meiser oni also.
Wow, okay,
We'll see in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
But that's what the Gemara is looking for.
You say Meiser.
I would think
it's
it
true.
seems like it would be a hidden to say that it's the,
Yeah.
I think it's first opinion is a hidden. It says that you don't have to say that it's,
I didn't even say it yet. I didn't even say the commission
okay,
yet.
maybe I'm misreading, but
Okay.
it seems like you wouldn't have to say that this is my surrounding.
So we don't, so let's go. Let's read it. We didn't even read it yet. So here's the Mishnah. Rabbi Elazar Omer, "Ein adam sochlik v'shem al ma'aser rani shel demai." So we have now demai. So as Levi Yaakov brought in the issue of demai, demai means that you bought it from an Amoritz who says that he tied, everything's kosher, but we don't trust him because they made mistakes sometimes. They weren't responsible enough. They don't know what they eat.
No, they say, usually they say it was tied.
Yeah, they're saying that it's tied.
They said it was tied and we don't know who
We don't
believes
trust
them.
them. We don't trust them, right? So either because they make a mistake or because they lying, whatever the case is. But we have to retie it. So what do you have to do? You have to take off truma. No, truma you don't have to take off because the Amor is not suspect that he didn't take off truma. It's
Yeah.
it doesn't cost too much to take off only one kernel, and also it's very serious if you don't take truma. He knows that, but he doesn't know how serious it is not to take off my Rishon. So my Rishon, you do have to suspect that he didn't do it, and therefore you have to do it. You have to separate a tent and say that this is my Rishon.
That's already because Trumas Meiser, right? Okay, I don't know. Never mind.
And the Meiser Rishon, you don't have to give to the Levi because maybe he gave it already. That's called Motzmei Chaber Varaya. Meiser Rishon is not also to eat. It's not holy in a way that you're not allowed to eat it. There's no issue to eat for Yisrael to eat Meiser Rishon. So you just have to separate it. And now the rest of it is not well. This is even if it was not tied. So the rest of it is chulin, and this is going to be Meiser Rishon. And Meiser Rishon, you're allowed to eat. So I have to separate it, but you don't have to give it away to the Levi.
I thought you brought up a new point here. I thought that if we're saying that it's Demai, then the reason you don't have to give it to Levi is because they be nice with it.
That's what I said.
No, you said that the Levi doesn't have to, you don't have to give it to the Levi because
Again, what did you say? What did you say?
we don't have to give it to the Levi because maybe a Levi got it already.
Maybe it was given already, right? Okay.
And what does that have to do with the Motzi?
That what you just said is in Hebrew is the Motzei Chaber, right?
Mhm.
How come we don't have to give it? Because maybe it was given already. That means we don't know. So Motzei Chaber, right? That's what you said. And I said it in Hebrew.
Oh,
You said it in
the
English.
Levi. I was thinking of the Levi. In other words, to the Am Ha'oretz. I should prove that the Am Ha'oretz didn't give it.
You are the Levi. That's what you mean when you say I.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. They're saying that since you're not sure if it was given or not,
No,
you
I'm
don't have
saying
to
about
give
something
because he has the
that
right
in
to
a
do it.
regular case, if it's not a regular person doesn't have to give it to the Levi because the Levi has to prove he's a Levi.
No, that's getting.
I thought that's-
No.
Maybe he has to prove that it wasn't given yet. And he
And then you can say,
he can't prove that it wasn't given.
So Meiser Rishon, you would have to separate and doesn't have to give it to a Levi in the case of the man. And there's a question of Trumas Meiser within the Meiser Rishon that he doesn't have to give, but he would have to take a tenth of that and give Trumas Meiser because that you're not allowed to eat. These are all technicalities we're not going into right now. But here the question is about the Meiser
That's
Ani.
a suffix, but it's
But it might be awesome. You don't have to give it, but you have
But it's
to ask it to eat.
Mhm.
How about Meiser Ani? Meiser Sheni, you also separate and then you take it to Yerushalayim because you're not giving it to anybody. So take it to Yerushalayim. Now Meiser Ani, that's the question now. Meiser Ani, you bought produce from Amoretz. He says everything's kosher and tied, and we don't trust him. So do you have to separate Meiser Ani? So Beleza says no, you don't have to. Beleza Omer ein adam tzarich likvud shem al Meiser Ani shalom. You don't have to. You talk about Meiser Rishon, Trumas Meiser, Meiser Sheni. Even if you don't have to give it, you still have to be Koresh Shem. You still have to declare that this is Meiser Rishon, this is Meiser Sheni. But by Meiser Ani, you don't have to. Doesn't say why. But
You're
Beleza
still gonna
says
have to give the Meiserani, but you don't
no,
have to.
no.
Mhm.
You don't have to give it. You don't even have to declare it. Ein adam tzarich likvud shem al Meiser Ani shalom. You don't have to declare Meiser Ani of the Maya, and you're not going to give it. You're not going to even declare it. Meiser Rishon, you declare that this is Meiser Rishon, but you don't give it. Meiser Ani, you don't even have to declare.
Clear, separate. Right.
Separate, declare.
So
It
you don't
wouldn't
even
be
have to
like
separate it?
Meiser Rishon, you could just declare without separating because you're not going to give it to Levi anyway. You just declare it. So wherever it is, that's on the southern side. You don't have to separate it. But here, you don't even have to declare it.
You don't even have to.
So we don't know why. Why don't you have to declare it?
Well, wait a minute, that shows you that you don't have to separate it at all, and then therefore, what?
That's what we're looking for. What does it mean? Why don't you have to separate it? Why not? The Chachamim omrim, Korban Shem Bein Tzarech La'akar. You do declare it, but you don't have to designate. You don't have to separate it. You just declare on the southern side. It is hereby the 10% on the southern side is hereby my Serani.
What, and then he goes and eats it?
Yes. That's the
What kind
machlokes.
of declaration is it? Something that he doesn't hold to?
He's not a nani,
No.
how can he eat it?
No, it's not.
Anybody have an
He-
answer? He's not a nani. He's not going to eat it.
Oh, it's a
That's
motzei.
I'm what's right. Maybe it's not my Serani.
Okay, but then so it has, so it has to be declared, so
So what are you declaring it
so
for?
that people know there's food for anim here.
No, that's not why. The
Come
clearing
again.
doesn't mean you put it on the
Pedestal.
on the round call. What PR? What do they call
So
it?
that's the question,
From
how much?
P,
do you-
what?
The WhatsApp.
The ones that you don't put on the WhatsApp. You just say I raise my Serani.
Mud and halacha.
The 10% on the southern side is my Serani, and finished. Everyone's quiet. It's quiet in the room. Nobody's even in the room. You say that this is my Serani, and then you eat it yourself. Because
You have to wait for half an hour, half a day, something.
no, you're not giving it to anybody. If Ani comes and knocks on the door, you say, I'm sorry.
What- What's going on? This is a joke.
It's called
No,
a
he's saying
Motzei.
Yeah, but
I-
you gotta give, you have to present a situation that if an ani comes running, he wants some
We'll
food.
just rewind a little bit, that this is a case of Demai. Demai means that maybe my Serani was given already, so I don't have to give it Misafik because it's a sub, That's what we're talking about Demai. Demai means that maybe it was given already, so I have to separate it, but I don't have to give it. Why do I have to separate it? What's the benefit of separating it? Declaring it. And I have to, what do I declare it for? What do I get by declaring it?
So what do I get from?
What do you declare from?
So that he's not, it's that his food won't be in the gather of
Heaven. So, right, good. So the Chachamim say that you have to separate, you have to declare Meiserani or else it's Teva. And the question is, that's what I wanted, that the Chachamim say you have to declare it even though you're not going to separate it because it's Teva. So if I'm not going to declare it, the whole thing is going to be Teva. Now that I declared it, so now this is Chulin and this is on the southern side is going to be Meiserani and I can eat the whole thing. What does Rebbe Lezer hold? Rebbe Lezer says you don't have to declare it. Maybe. Anybody? What?
Maybe the Amaris took my
Maybe it didn't.
He's
You'd
saying
have
that they-
you'd have to
maybe they
declare it. You'd have to,
They're
you
just
know,
like
say
shit,
that
like-
It's not Tevel.
it's
It's
not
not
Tevel.
Tevel.
No, that is not Tevel.
That's
Even
not
even
Tevel.
if you did
That,
not
the
separate,
Meiser is
declare it, it's not Tevel. We talked about if you didn't take off Truma,
Like
you didn't take
Peah.
off Meiser Rishon, and Meiser right, like that.
Like-
Even though you didn't do it, even if it would, even on the side that the Ani did not take off the Meiser Ani, it's not Tevel. That's what Rebbe Lezer must hold. The Chachamim say that you have to declare it, even though you're not going to give it, because if I don't declare it, it's going to be Tevel. If I declare it, it's not Tevel, then I'm not eating myself. But Rebbe Lezer says you don't have to declare it, it must be that it's not Tevel. Even if somebody did not declare that this thing I raise a Meiser Ani, it doesn't make Tevel. My love, Laman Dama Sfeiko Tovel. That's what the Gemara. Now the words of the Gemara are a little difficult. It says Sfeiko Tovel. The issue isn't Sfeiko Tovel. The issue is even if Vadai Tovel. The issue is, the question is it Tevel without having separated or declared at least Meiserani? So the Gemara thinks that Rabbi Lezer holds, the Rabbanan hold Tovel. Tovel means it makes, excuse me. Tovel means that if you didn't separate it, if you didn't, separate means declare. If you didn't declare it, so it's Tevel. If you didn't declare that this is Meiserani, it's part of you have a big 100 kilo, and you take some Juma and Meiser Bish, Meiser Chain. If you don't separate or declare at least that this thing is Meiser Ani, the whole thing is Tevel. That's what the Rabbanan hold. And the Rabbi Elman Damar, I'll read the whole thing soon, but us to jump around. Elman Damar Enu Karishain, Rabbi Lezer says you don't have to declare it. Why? Because he holds Enu Tovel, Sveiko Enu Tovel. That it doesn't make Tevel. That we found the machlokes. The more things found the machlokes if it's Tovel or not. And the Gemara now is going to say, and that's depending if it's considered a benefit if you give it to somebody. Do I have the right to give it to somebody? The Gemara is going to connect it now that if you hold Tovel, that means that I have the obligation to separate it. That's why it's Tevel if I don't. And if I have the obligation to separate it, I have the decision, the right to give it who I want to. If you hold that it's not Tevel, it's because it's not my business. It means I'm allowed to take it, but it's not my taking and giving. So then I don't have the decision to give who to give it to. And that's what the Gemara wants in order to explain the machlokes. The Mishnah and the Brisa is the woman who asked herself to benefit from people. Is she allowed to get Meiser Ani. Our Mishnah says she's not allowed to because the owner has the right to give it who he wants to. That's called Tovel. And it's Tevel until you take it apart, take it. And when you take it, you give it. But the Brisa that says that she is allowed to take Meiser Ani is because it isn't the volition, it isn't the choice of the owner to give it who he wants to. Why? Because ain't a Tovel. It isn't your choice, your din at all to separate it. The Aniyim have a right to take it, and you don't have a din to take it, and you don't have a din to give it. So then the woman could take Meiser Ani because it's not benefiting from him because it's not his choice who to give it to. If the idea is good, we'll see the words inside.
That's
My love, second line. The one who says, this is going to be the one who says Koreshem, the Rabbanan, the one who say Koreshem, which means that you have to declare it. You do have to declare it. And why is that? Because then it's going to be considered a Tova Sana, who you give it to. Whoever you decide to give it to, it's your choice who to give it to, and that's considered Tova Sana. But given this like Tova Sana, Allah Mahanya. And since it's considered a benefit who you give it, you have the choice you have the choice who to give it to. So you're not allowed to benefit the woman to give it to her because she's not allowed to benefit from you. Well, the Mandama in a Koreshem, Rabbi Lezer holds that you don't have to declare because Savas Feka in a Tova. He holds that even before you take off Meiser Ani or declare Meiser Ani, it's not Tevel. It's not only Sveka, even Vado in it, even Vado is also not Tovel. The Cholch is Sveka in the Tovel, less like Tova Sana. So since it's not Tevel, that means that it's not your din to give it. And if it's not your din to give it, to separate it and give it, so it's not your choice who to give it to. And therefore, she's allowed to benefit because she's not benefiting from you. Because she's like a Shikron Peah. She's taking from Hefker, she's taking from Meiser, but not that you have the choice who to give it to.
how do you define Tova Sana?
Tova Sana means the benefit of who you're going to give it to.
The giver.
The giver has a benefit that they have the choice who to give it to. If they have the right of who to give it to, it's worth money. Tova Sana is usually worth money. The fact that you have the choice who to give it to, that's worth something. Because someone might pay you to choose them.
So anybody can come and take it. Like you said, she. I thought.
We're talking about she because Amish is about a woman. In the case of Amish, go back to Amish. Amish had a woman said, "I'm answering myself on all brios." Is she allowed to take? This is going back to our Mishnah. We use this in order to go back to our Mishnah to figure out what the Mishnah is talking about. Why should the Mishnah says she cannot get Meiser Ani. The Brisa says she could get Meiser Ani. The Mishnah holds that Tovel, that till you take off Meiser Ani, it's Tevel, which is another way of saying it's your obligation to separate it, which also means it's your obligation to give it, which means that it's she's benefiting from you if she's going to get it from you. But the Brisa holds that in a Tovel, even before you take off Meiser Rishon, even if before you take off Meiser Ani, it's not Tevel, which means that it's not your business at all to take it off. The Aniyim have a right to take it, but it's not you who's giving it. So you don't have the choice who to give it to, and therefore she would be this woman who said, "I'm not going to benefit from the brios," is allowed to take Meiser Ani because it's not you who's deciding who to give it to.
That's according to Rabbi Eliezer.
Right. The Mishnah is going to be the Rabbanan, and the Brisa is going to be Rabbi Eliezer. That's how Rav Yosef suggested to reconcile the contradiction between the Mishnah and the Brisa. They're arguing at this point if you have the right to who to give it to. And where do you find the machlokis? Machlokis if it's tevel, if you did not separate it. If that's good, we'll go on to say the answer. Not the answer, but Abai is going to knock it down. This was an answer. This was Rav Yosef's explanation of the Brisa and the Mishnah. Abai is going to say, you don't see that. You got the wrong shot. That's not the machlokis of Rabbi and Rabbanan. Well, how did he build this whole thing up? Because it says, Rabbi says, you don't have to declare Meiser Ani of the Mai. You got the Mai, you bought the Mai from Amoritz, and Rabbi Lezer says you don't have to declare Meiser Ani. So he built up this whole thing. Rabbi Lezer said, why? Because it's not Tevel anyway. Amalei Abaye, that's not true. You don't see anything. The Kul Yamas Feiko Tovel. It could be that this Bryce everybody holds. Everybody. There's no machlokes. Everybody holds that it is Tovel, which would mean that it's Tevel until you declare it, which means it's your obligation to separate it. It's your right to give it who you want to give it to, and therefore she should not be allowed to benefit from Meiser Ani. And what's the machlokes of Rabbi Lezer and Rabbanan over here about the Mai? That's something else. Rabbi Lezer and Rabbanan Bakim Aflugi. The machlokes is altogether different over here in this Mishnah over there in the Mai. Rabbi Lezer said, "Lo nefesh damoros al Meiser Ani." That Rabbi Lezer holds that the Amoritz doesn't have to be suspect that he didn't give Meiser Ani. He definitely gave Meiser Ani, even though you suspect he didn't give Meiser Rishon, but you don't suspect that he didn't give Meiser Ani. He did give Meiser Ani. Why? What's the difference between Meiser Rishon and Meiser Ani? Who? He has a way how to get it by himself. He could call it Maiserani and then say, I'm after all of my estate. And he's also eligible to get Maiserani. To make himself, he can't make himself a Levi. So if he takes Maiser Rishon, if he's going to say, he thinks like this, the Amor thinks like this. How do you say, if you don't talk about it, you don't, see no evil, how does it go? So he thinks if he doesn't call it Maiser Rishon, so it's you keep it quiet, it's not, so fine, it's not Maiser Rishon. He doesn't realize that it's Tevel if he doesn't do that. But if he's going to say this is Maiser Rishon, he has to give it to the Levi. He doesn't want to give it to the Levi. It's 10 to the produce. So he doesn't call it Maiser. He doesn't call it Maiser Rishon. We'll skip that. But Maiser Rani, he doesn't have a problem to skip. If he wants to,
It's easy for him to say it because he can.
Right, because he could say, this is Maiser Rani, he'll be a good Jew, and then I'll make myself an Ani. I hereby disown all of my $1 million, and therefore he's poor. He's allowed to take it. And then he'll take back the $1 million. He'll go through the ritual of making not the ritual, more like go through the steps, go through the motions of making himself poor in order to be able to get the Maiserani, and then he'll take back his estate again. If either he'll give the Maiserani, and if you think that he's suspect not to give the Maiserani, he'll also give the Maiserani, give the Maiserani to himself. So there's no reason to suspect that when you buy produce from a Amoritz and he says it was tied, Maiserani was taken, you don't have to suspect that he's lying, because why should he lie? He could have done it in a kosher way. He could have says, but by Maiser Rishon, you do have to suspect, because if he's going to call it Maiser Rishon, he's going to have to give it to the Levi.
Mhm.
That's what
This is Rebbe.
that's what Rebbe
Eliezer
Eliezer
says that the Amoritz has a shrewd mind
to be
to know how
to have to
get
do it in a
around
kosher way.
Yeah.
He'll go through he has a loophole how to be able to separate the Maiser Rani.
He's quite a Talmud Chacham.
Okay. So either he gave it, or if he didn't give it, he also would have declared it and officially taken it off and taken it for himself. And who? Let's say that he doesn't have a loss by declaring it Maiser Rani, because even though you only can give it to a poor person, he'll make himself a poor person. And Rabbanan don't hold to that trick. The Rabbanan say, no, the Amoritz don't do that, because someone might hear him saying, I hereby disown all my $1 million. and while he's busy taking the Maiser Rani, the neighbor is going to make a chazaka on the whole estate. And so he doesn't do such things. A person is not going to disown his property, because he's scared somebody's going to be zoche in this property and for the 5 minutes that he disowns it. Therefore, they are suspect. So what did Abaye do? Abaye knocked down, toppled over the whole building of Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef thought that in this Mishnah, Machlokes Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbanan, he found the big mitzvah, Machlokes, if not taking off Maiser Rani, makes it hevel or not. And at that he wanted to build the Machlokes, if you have a right to give it to who you wanted to, or it's not your business, and the poor person comes, takes it by himself. Abaye knocked down the whole thing. It doesn't say that. He has just a claim Machlokes if the Amoritz is suspect of not taking Maiser Rani because he has a way of doing it in a kosher way or not. And it's nothing to everybody else that it's tevel if you don't declare it. The reason why Rabbi Eliezer is makel is because he says that he probably did take off Maiser Rani. So Abaye knocked down the text.
Where does that leave the woman?
So back to the issue
So
of
that
Tova,
implies that the woman couldn't take it, right?
right? Because he's giving it to her, and if he's giving it to her, so he's benefiting that I chose you to give it to her. I could have given it to somebody else. That's called Tova Sana, and you're benefiting from it.
Okay.
So back to the question again. So we had a question in the Mishnah, how to reconcile the Mishnah and the Brisa. So if Yosef suggested the answer, Abaye knocked it down. So now Rav was going
According
to
to this, we don't know why he said it could be that she can have my son.
right. We're stuck. How do you explain? Right, everyone should hold that she should not be able to get it because the one owner of the field who's giving Maiser Rani, he chose her to give it, so she's benefiting from him.
Mhm.
So we're in the question now. So Rav is going to take care of that. Rav Amar, there are two kinds of Maiser Rani. Some you have a choice who to give it to. Some you don't have a choice who to give it to. Rav Amar can be Maiser Rani amaschalik v'soch habayis. Tichsid bein esina and asati leLevi lager etc. Mishamachi also leLasanuye. Can be Maiser Rani amaschalik v'soch hagranos. There are two kinds of Maiser Rani. Is Maiser Rani you give in the granary?
Basin Tina? No, sir. What?
The second one is granos. The granos here is a granary. This word granos is like grain, a granary. So,
Are we talking about, no, I got lost.
I thought you were talking about the first one.
so I went out of order to make it simpler, but we'll go in order. That if you're giving Meiser money from your house, so then you have a choice who to give it to. Meiser money, you have a choice who to give it to. If you're giving it out in your house, you brought the Meiser money into your house, and now you're apportioning it. So you invite who you want to. You call up the ani, or you look out the window, you see which one you give it to.
You make an active.
Then you have a choice who to give it to. But if you're giving it out in the silo, in the goren, and the granary, so over there you don't have a choice who to give it to. They get in line, and you give each one a certain amount. You have to give them. It says over there, Mishnah and pay over there, comma, how much you have to give to each one. But there's a difference between us and
Is that called Ne'aneh?
so then you're not nana because it isn't your choice. In the case when you have the choice, but he has to give it. So he doesn't have the choice who to give it to. So the woman gets in line like everybody else, and she's going to get. If he's giving it out in the house and he has the choice who to give it to, so then she's benefiting because he chose to give it to her. But if she's getting it in the granary and it's not the owner's choice who to give it to her, she's not benefiting. See that inside? So our Mishnah is talking about the Maisoni, which is being portioned out from his house, and that means over there it says give it. If it says give it, it means your choice who to give it to. The Sevenasino over there says to give. Then a sator or the real like that. Mishum that's the next one. Mishum Hachi. Also, that's why she's not allowed to benefit. He's not allowed to give her benefit. Because she asked herself to benefit from anybody, so the owner of the Meiser Ani cannot give it to her because she's benefiting from him. That's the Mishnah. The Brisa that says that she could get Meiser Ani is talking about Meiser Ani that's being given out in the granary. Over there, he doesn't give it to who he wants to.
Like
over there it says leave it in your gates, means just leave it, and they take it. Over therefore, therefore she's allowed to give. He's the owner is allowed to give it to her. It's not called that she's benefiting from him because it isn't his choice who to give it to. So that's the answer to reconcile the Mishnah.
What's Rabbi saying?
This is all Rabbi's teretz. Rabbi said this
just before that.
Abaye just knocked off of Yosef's Metzia that if Yosef found the machlokus, if you have the choice to give Meiser Ani in general, not only it doesn't have a difference who has given the house, and he said that the Kohen Shabbat there's no din that you give it, the Ani comes and takes it. And that the Gemara knocked off, you don't see that. The Gemara over there hung it on the machlokes if it's Tobel or not. If it's Tobel until you separate, until you cover shame. And the Gemara thought, if Yosef tells you it doesn't become Tobel, if it doesn't become Tobel, it means that it's the Ani taking it themselves, you're not giving it. If you're not giving it, it isn't your choice who to give it to. But the Gemara knocked that down and says, no, everybody holds that it is Tobel. Over there, the Shabbat holds you don't have to take off Meiser money from the Mai because probably the Ani gave it anyway. So Abai just knocked off a Yosef's trap. So Rabbi comes in and saves the day that there are two kinds of Meiser money. The one given in the house, you do have the right to give it to. The one given out in the granary, you don't have the right to give it to. So the woman would be allowed to take Meiser money from the granary. She wouldn't be allowed to take Meiser money from the house.
That's individual. That's an individual.
Then she chooses and she's benefiting from him that he made that choice. So we're going to stop here more or less, just to get a little bit of Akdama to tomorrow's Gemara, just to look at the Mishnah again. We'll stop here, but just to go back to the Mishnah to see what it says about the Kohanim and Levim. After it spoke about Lekit Shikopeya, so the Mishnah over here said, what if Kohanim Levim then
she will not, they cannot get benefit from her. Is that what it means?
She will not, right. She asked it herself. They cannot benefit. All Kohen Levim cannot benefit from it.
It's not necessarily her. I'm not sure that it's anybody. I don't know why.
Why it doesn't have to be a woman. It could be
anybody that
because it
doesn't
doesn't
have to do with the Meiser and things like that.
nothing to do about the woman. Not to do with being Mefer.
A konim that the konim and the Levim won't get benefit from, yet he has to give trumas and Meisers. That's going to be a problem.
So is that called a benefit? Is that the
benefit,
Kohen benefiting from him? So here the Mishnah says they have a right to take against his will, which the Pashas we just learned it superficially, and we said that he can't do that because the Torah says that he has to give. Torah says he has to give, so he can't answer them. They're allowed to take it.
Well, does that mean that it wasn't a Nedarim? Not necessarily.
It doesn't seem to say that.
It just says that they can take, even though he made a Neder.
That they can benefit, they're allowed to take. Kohanim Elu Uleviim.
Oh, like maybe,
Able.
maybe they wouldn't be able to eat his food or come to his chasana. But in terms of.
But Trumas and Meiser
Trumas and
could
Meiser
take.
they could take.
Good.
Right,
Very nice.
I-
You know,
there's something
that it takes
where-
effect as far as everything else, but as far as Trumas and Meisers, they could take even against his will.
Okay.
But if he said Kohanim Elu on the VM Elu, specific Kohanim, not all of them, Kohanim Elu, the VM Elu cannot be benefit from me. So then they cannot take from him Trumas and Meisers, but others can take. That's how we read the Mishnah simply. Yes, Hamdan.
I remember saying that the Balabait has a choice to, he can, it's kedai for the Kohen to be a mensch or a Levi, so that when he comes to get the Balabait says, I'm gonna, I've already given, I've already.
Not a bad guy. I don't want to give
I
to you.
already set it aside for
To
somebody.
be a little bit more aggressive, I do not give to such kind of Kohanim and Leviim who act like
That's what I
that.
meant. I remember we
Yeah,
learned
but you said it
this.
very nicely. He got, he
So
squeezed, he
it's just-
wiggles out of it. But he could say, if you're gonna act like that, I'm not gonna give to you.
Isn't that called what's it called, Intor?
No, he's not a mensch. He gets in fights with everybody. You say, get the act together, so people
Get your
will
act
give you.
together
Okay.
and-
That's
so
true.
we
That's
have-
what we called this morning. Tobasana. We spoke about this Tobasana, that you have the choice who to give it to. So we said, Homachlokis this morning
Now you're saying
about,
differently.
now we're talking about Trumas and Meiser. So now we're talking about Meiseroni. That was the whole issue of this.
No,
had
I'm
Trumas and
talking
Meiser.
about the Trumas and Meiser.
So that's right. So we said the whole time that you have the choice who to give it to. Now this guy was a fancy guy, and he said, "I'm asking all Karmel Levim, everybody. No one's a lot of benefit from me." So now he can't. So what happened to his? What's going to be? They're not going to take Trumas and Meiser. He asked everybody. Forget about the choice. He asked everybody. No Kohen Levi could get from him. So are they going to lose out on Trumas and Meiser? So it says no.
Not only that, it's just.
They walk in and take it. Is that what I'm hearing?
So now it says Yitul al Kochen. Yitul al Kochen, which we weren't redundant this the whole time. He does say that they're allowed to get Trumas and Meiser anyway. But now Cham David is being the Mishnah. It says Yitul al Kochen means that they take against his will. That seems to say that he's not giving out. He's not saying who to take it, because that much he answered that they cannot benefit from him. If he's going to decide, I'm giving it to you, I'm giving it to you, so they are benefiting from him. So the Mishnah seems to say that they don't ask questions and they take. There's something more than we spoke about in the Mishnah. When I said the Mishnah, I didn't go into this, I didn't realize it. But Chaim David saying Yitzhak Karchol means that they take it. It doesn't say he should give to them. He cannot give to them. He cannot decide who to give. Usually, when he has Shumas and Maisros to give out, he decides who he wants to give to. Like,
Nobody made a kohen that he can't.
so he can't. They can't benefit from him. So they could take without asking him.
Yeah, they come.
It's not his choice to give him.
Besides saying that they can't ask Shumas and Maisros on them, it does seem to say, but he cannot decide who to give it to.
I see.
How about if he said specific Kohanim Elu Leviim Elu?
You're saying that
He gives it to
doesn't have
others,
to.
that
give
he
it to
can give it to others. He can decide.
Now,
how to give it.
maybe Yaakov said the Mishnah should say
He takes it to others. That's what.
It does. As Yitul Acher means other people
Oh,
can
other
take.
people take.
That's interesting. It should
Yeah.
have said L'chora that he has the right to give it to. He can't give to them, and they can't take it. He can't give it to them.
But
because that-
everybody else, it's available to them. So
It's
they can,
available?
they can come in and enforce that which he doesn't give to these particular ones. Everybody else is have to take.
why can't he have the decision who to give it to?
No, it's not what he's saying. He's saying that he's obligated to keep his
So he won't give it to- he won't give it to-
oath that he's not giving to these.
So he won't give to them. He'll give to
Right,
others.
But to who he does give to is open to everyone.
Why can't he have a decision who to give it to?
Huh?
Why can't he have the decision who to give it to amongst those
We're
that?
trying to prove that he doesn't have choice.
Why doesn't he have a
That-
choice?
that's like-
He asked her 10. He asked her 10 Kohanim, 10 Leviim. There are other 1,000 Kohanim out there.
That's right.
So why can't he give it to who he wants to?
I thought we
Why
were
does-
trying to prove the point that he doesn't have to be, that he doesn't make the choice, that she's not being near in the original oath, that she's not near from it.
He's not
It's
giving
oath.
the one who made not with
Oh,
the
this
she
is not
and
maybe it's,
we're talking about the person asked it will be accountable to benefit from him. So he asked it all the Kohanim Leviim. So then he's not going to make a decision to give it to. They'll take it on their own.
Let's take
But if he asks it only one,
Here it says Balkorcho.
yeah, no, Coco. And here it says Yitu. It should be Yitu. So you say it doesn't mean so. It means he could give it. He could make the decision who to give it to. The Mishnah seems to say Yitu Acherim. That's a little strange. He should have said he should give it to whoever he wants to. Besides these, no saying La Acherim. That's interesting that it says Yitu. A little bit we got into the tomorrow's subject. I'm not
Or
sure.
maybe because it said you know in the ratio, so just
Maybe it's only Yaga. Very nice. I thought that's also a possibility. But just to point out that Yitu Al Kocho is not only saying that he can't ask everybody. It's also saying that he cannot have the decision of who to give it to.
Yes.
And we'll see more tomorrow. I hope by tomorrow I understand better than today.
Now I have to come to Shir tomorrow.
Huh?
What?
Now I have to come to Shir tomorrow.
It's a real cliffhanger. No?